everyone to this episode of Freedom Hub's Working Group. I'm your host, Jeff Cantor, along with my co-host, Charles Froman. Welcome. We are also, we want to make sure you're aware we are being sponsored by your-mp.com, which is the marketplace for health, wealth, and freedom. And of course, we are the Disruptors Intersection, as today is, you're going to really see today. And we do have a sister show that we run at 7, which is more on the health-oriented side, cash patients and cash doctors and kind of escaping from the whole insurance trap. So you definitely want to take advantage of checking that out. And again, let's visit the main site. So it's very simplistic to get there. And let's just take a quick detour before we jump into today. So when you come to the site, there's a couple of great drop downs. The most important, when you come under home, you'll see the webinar, and then you'll see continuing the conversation, and one kind of follows the other. But let's kind of jump to round 2 first. After you've had the speaker, and today will be a good example, you might want to connect with them afterward in one way or another. And so you'll be able to continue the conversation, because today will just be more of an introduction, typically with any of these people. And then you really need to start digging in or help them further their cause or what have you. So that's kind of the idea there. And in that instance, let's talk about today. So if you hover over home and click on webinars, you end up on this page, a little introductory content. And then here's the breakout in the 2 calls of the day. And then a little further down, you'll see who's coming up so you can make some future plans. And then very importantly, the area where all the links are. So this show, as an example, will be up over the weekend. So by Monday morning, you'll be able to click on any of these links for this one today on this side, and it'll be on all these channels. And you'll see there's a wealth of them. If we click on here as an example, you'll see there's a wealth of videos that go back a long time. We've been doing this for a long time, years already. So you'll see there's an awful lot in there. And of course, it's not loading right away. Let me click on a different one. Let's see if this opens up faster. There we go. So it goes all the way down. I mean, it goes on and on and on. It goes back pages and pages. And again, there's a lot of great stuff. So you will want to connect with these speakers after the fact. But let's back up a minute and let's start digging in for today. So I'm going to let Charles kind of jump into the fray here and give us a rundown on our guest today.
Of course, Jeff, and welcome, Jonathan. This is an exciting topic because Jeff and I are always looking for the future disruptors. And given that the future has been impacted by the hysteria of the past year, it's even more relevant. We've had a number of guests coach entrepreneurs on how to rebuild after the chaos and the lockdowns, and working around the Great Reset power play from the special interest exploiting the chaos. And for Jonathan, the problem we're trying to solve in this webinar was, what about all that empty commercial real estate from people working from home? A lot of employees don't want to work totally from home going forward. So how are commercial real estate entrepreneurs going to refill that space? Or along with the Great Reset and new normal, are there going to be new ways to work? And that's really where Jonathan's going to start talking about BitTrees, his company. And we'll get into new ways of financing this reality with cyber currency. We'll talk about Facebook and Oculus and what's called the metaverse, and what is the business use case for the metaverse. These are terms a lot of our audience don't know much about. So I think it's handy for one of our friends to really get into the weeds in this market, because if Facebook is going to make this part of our new reality, we all should start to know about it.
Yeah, Charles, that was great. Probably gives a really good summary. There's COVID's really done a number on the commercial real estate sector, and not seeing that it was going to recover necessarily anytime soon. I started looking for different options, and I found CryptoVoxels, which is essentially this platform. And to go for it, like really layman's terms, it uses the blockchain. Each parcel of property, each kind of box or whatever, which is these little squares right here, are identified as an asset on the blockchain. And so these little things are called NFTs, and they are purchased and bought and paid for by cryptocurrency and whatnot. So you can see here, based on the data, that I purchased this piece of property about 2 years ago. Looks like the exact date was November 20th at 10:18 in the morning. And basically, I started building a company or a concept of a company in the metaverse, so hosted digitally since then. So I basically thought it would be, make the most sense to, instead of talking about it at a high level and going through a slide deck and all that kind of stuff, I thought it would make a lot more sense to essentially give you guys a tour of what the metaverse is. So this is the metaverse. This is a caricature I have. There are different items that you can put on your character and whatnot. So that's just kind of what I did. The website was actually created after I had built out most of this. But this area just kind of shows like who we are, what we're doing, and it shows basically very introductory high level to Bitstrees and what we're doing. So really what we're focused on is community building. So helping empower artists and creative folks. So people who have like a difficult time getting contract help and whatnot, and people who need help selling their artwork or getting an audience of people. So that's kind of our focus. An event that we just put on was called NFT Expo. So I'll take you to that here shortly. This right here is our portal hub. So this is a pretty large world. So if I pull up this map here, that shows this space. And so you see here that I am this tiny little blue dot right here. And then if I pull out, this is kind of this whole world. And there's some stuff like way over to that side, but basically more land is getting added to this world kind of continuously. And then it is kind of ever expanding. So if I go click on this sign right here, it will take me to this art expo that we just did. So this was for a local Seattle artist, Danielle, and we were able to basically throw this event for her using this virtual space right here. And so this basically allowed us to showcase her work, which I'll show you here shortly, and then allowed us to put up advertisement, which you can click this sign here, and you can pop up other data gathering tools, and you can use this to get like registrations for the event and that kind of stuff. So we got a number of those, so I was happy. We have more guest lists that you can have fill out for people that attend it here. And then basically this is her artwork. So we had a gathering of people here yesterday, and we walked around with the artist, just kind of like how I am doing right now. And we went and she basically talked about her work and why it was important for her and what inspired her. And we have like little, sale marks on different pieces that got sold and that kind of stuff. So this is basically a very interesting kind of opportunity in the space right now. I made it so if you find one of these logos, you click on it, it will always take you back to this portal hub. So I thought it was a unique way to advertise the logo specifically. So another up and coming project is essentially, so the digitization of finance is kind of underway here. Using the blockchain and all that kind of stuff, people will begin to identify different digital commodities or different commodities such as wine, and then create different funds out of them. And so one of the people that are doing that in the space is Viva. And so they're a group out of Europe. And so they built a wine shop here to advertise their fund that they're building. And they're using wine as a collateral base for their fund. And then they'll have essentially an ETF built off of that. So I thought it was really unique. And they're doing some advertising in the space just because I thought it was a really cool platform. So, and then we just partnered with this building right here next door. And we will be building out kind of a large scale mall in here. So really excited about that. There's been a lot of sales with like wearables and whatnot. I don't know if you guys know about like other like video game type stuff, but a lot of people spend money on these various clothing items that I was wearing. And so that's a pretty big economy that is in this space. So, refresh here. All right. So there is a really cool project that we're working on in Frankfurt. It's called the Frankfurt Token Exchange. And so if you walk down this way here, you will see kind of this larger superstructure. Right here, I'll fly out of it. So this structure right here, and it goes this way here. This is called the Frankfurt Token Exchange. And essentially it is a project that we have geared towards housing various DeFi projects. So our whole idea was, DeFi projects, don't really have a central location for advertisements to take place. And so we thought this build right here would be really cool because we could rent out various office spaces to DeFi projects. So we've been spending a lot of time building this one. And so that's kind of where it's at right now. It's near completion. So, but the really cool thing about this, and some of the things that I work on, is more of like the business architecture and how things are kind of organized. And so essentially this building here is built on top of like a business structure that has like various rental agreements, and these rental agreements feed into the building management portion. And then there's another portion that has the actual property titles, and then the building rents from the land through this process. So it's a unique way to compartmentalize business structures in this space. Because kind of what I found out is anything that you can do inside in the real world, as far as like contracts and that kind of stuff, you can basically do the exact same thing in this metaverse using digital certificates and digital contracts. So Charles, Jeff, do you guys have any questions? I'm kind of nearing the end of my tour, unless you guys wanted to see something specifically.
No, not at the top of my head as far as, what to look at, because it's all kind of new to me in this regard. So I don't know really where to go. But I was going to say, as far as this thing expanding out, I mean, it seems like that you can keep building outward in all directions pretty much limitlessly. Is the blockchain cause some limitations, or you can just keep going indefinitely and the blockchain just kind of keeps everything in line?
Yeah, the blockchain is just the database that gets continually updated. So a cryptocurrency, or the currency that kind of is spent on a blockchain, that's kind of independent from the list. The blockchain is just the list of accounts, or the list of different assets, or who owns those assets. And so in my instance, we can go on this right here, and we can see that this is owned by this particular person. So we can click on this, and we can see, based off of this address up here, we can see all the other people, or we can see, all the other things that this particular account owns. And so this is everything here. And so we can also go back and look at this portal hub, and we can see that, it was transferred from Bittree's. This is a multi-signature wallet right here. So we basically have multiple signers on this wallet to basically create a better level of security for our assets. Because before, we basically just had everything floating within this one account here, which is just the Bittree's kind of main account. So this is kind of like a generalist account, and all these different items are things that we own. They're just like little assets or collectibles. All these things are different wearables. And so for the different events that we have, we send these out to people, and they can wear them or they can sell them or whatever. And other people send us stuff, and it's kind of cool.
To be able to function across here in the way of using digital currencies, does this allow you to use any digital currency that I like or only certain ones?
Yeah, so everything that you're seeing here is built on the Ethereum network. And so as Bitcoin is kind of like the base money and that kind of network, it was supposed to be kind of like the solid base currency. Other networks have been built up around that. And so using a similar verification model, you can essentially build applications and whatnot. So that's kind of what Ethereum was made for.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so it's Ethereum, but Ethereum basically created the standardized model or whatever. It's called the Ethereum virtual machine. And so Matic, which is also known as Polygon, Binance, and then a couple others use the Ethereum virtual machine as the identification method. And so like when you look here, yeah, right here, this number right here starts with 0x and some numbers. That right there is how you identify things across this network. So if we go down here and we look at this sale right here,
Mm-hmm.
so this was the actual transaction of the property. So you see a transfer from this person to this person, and you can see the price of Ethereum at the time, and yeah.
But for those that may or may not know, so but let's say this wants me to use Ethereum when I come on here to spend money. But if I have a digital wallet and I own Bitcoin, I can convert that some of it into Ethereum and then come on here and use it that way.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like yeah, we can get a little bit more in the nitty gritty. Like this is just like Ethereum, and this is just one of the use cases. But if you're looking to do like more things with your currency or something like that, like something like this would be the way to go. Aave is essentially a liquidity protocol, and so you can essentially store, just like you do a deposit account within a bank. You deposit cryptocurrency into these various places, and then you get a yield. And so these deposit APYs are a continuous yield on this asset. So you can deposit anything you want into it, and then you can actually borrow that asset at that particular rate also. So there's a good amount of arbitrage on here, but yeah, this is a whole different rabbit hole. So.
Yes, I was going to say. All right, Charles, I see that your hand is up. Kick off the questions here.
Sure, I got a number of questions, and feel free to interrupt Jeff if other folks raise their hand.
Okay.
So this is new to a lot of folks, Jonathan.
Absolutely.
Maybe there's more people doing this like yourself than I realized or others realized. So first question, how does this intersect with the commercial real estate in terrestrial land versus your online land?
Totally. I'll show you a good example. So someone reached out to me a while ago, and they're like, hey, can you build out this concept for these people? And I said, sure. Who's the person? He's like, oh, Damian Lilliard. He's like Portland Trailblazers. So we essentially
playing right now.
This. That was it? Okay, cool. So
Olympics.
We built out, is the Olympics? Oh, I didn't know that. Huh. So we built out this concept for these guys. And so Adidas basically is one of the sponsors for Damian. And so they wanted to pitch him on creating a Adidas shop and stuff around Damian. And so I think they're going forward with it. But yeah, these are some of the brands that are looking in this space to advertise in the space. And so that's kind of like, hopefully answers your question.
Well, as a start, so I'm seeing what you're doing for that celebrity athlete and the shoe business, which of course is their market, and it's huge, big money. How does this space you're creating in a computer gel with space in an empty office building in a city? Or does it?
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I think the spaces might change into more kind of blank canvases. I mean, this is a lot of speculation, so I don't think it really could replace one, or I think there's an opportunity to augment one to the other. But I think there's an opportunity for individuals who haven't had the opportunity to get physical office space. I think businesses and individuals now have the opportunity to get virtual business space, and that presents them kind of availability to the market, just in the same manner that Jeff was talking about having a website. Like, if you don't have a website, like, do you even have a business? Like, what are you doing? So I think here shortly, at the rate of evolution, how all this technology is progressing here, it's going to be very similar to kind of the metaverse. Like, if you don't have a spot in the metaverse, are you even a business? Like, Sotheby's just created an art gallery in Decentraland. I don't know if you saw that one.
Okay, now we're getting somewhere. So someone without the means to buy terrestrial office space should at least work with you to get something online in the metaverse. Now, is there any translation from revenue from that work with you into getting an actual terrestrial office space in the real world? Or is that a completely separate conversation?
It would be a separate thing. I really only deal with the virtual space. So that virtual office that I showed you guys here, this is our corporate HQ. So if you go here, we have like upstairs and all this kind of stuff, but it's like we have gallery space, this is what we do, that kind of stuff. So this building was purchased, for $80, but the one next door was purchased for $5,000, and the one down the block was purchased for about $20. So, and the blockchain is great because you don't have to believe me. You can just go and validate that information for yourself, just in the simple manner that I was demonstrating.
Have there been conversations in your market among your fellow entrepreneurs in the metaverse about the impact of what you're doing on terrestrial commercial space, or is that not even in the conversation?
It is my macro thesis that this market will create a lot of inflation, and there will be boom and bust cycles very similar to the commercial space. And it will, once it gets a large enough value, it will begin competing with that space from a monetary perspective.
Interesting. Jeff, interrupt me if you have other questions. Or
well, I had one too that kind of came to me. I was going to say, how do consumers find out about these spaces or anything? I mean, you guys like do outside advertising, or just if you're in the know, suddenly you just get down on that radar for those types of people, or how does the general?
I mean, yeah, I really like to go about things kind of organically. I'm never going to force anyone to see things how I see things. Everyone kind of has to get there on their own. I stumbled upon this space in October 2019, and there was other people already before me, and I was a little upset that they didn't show me this, because I was like, holy crap, the opportunity. But everyone is kind of at different stages and whatnot. So I think once more people kind of enter into the space, a lot of people just naturally be drawn to it, and so that's kind of what I've been anticipating, and just making sure I have all my ducks in a row, so to speak.
Just say, when do you think it gets more mainstreamy? I mean, like, you're in this world, not this particular world initially, but, in the digital currency world. And so you're really plugged in. That most people are not. They just hear about it on the news, or, Amazon might take Bitcoin or something. When is it going to kind of break out where like your grandma knows about this kind of a thing?
Well, I think that's just the thing when it comes to like how our society kind of is right now. I think we're seeing a lot of adoption and innovation happening on the from the East. And so a lot of people that are adopting this, we work closely with a group of people from Asia, the IMT. And then we also, there's a pretty big French music place in here also. I can take you to it. And so it's not necessarily that, Joe Schmo or whoever down the street, or, my parents' friends or whatever needs to know about this. the world kind of is adopting this technology now. And so it's no longer a Western phenomena, but rather a global phenomena that's happening.
Jonathan, Charlie here. We got a few questions, and Jeff just interrupted me.
for it.
People in the
Go
audience.
for
it. Has big tech and big money prepared the world for this world you're presenting to us now through movies and games? One movie that comes to mind is Tron, and one game you mentioned in your email about this event, Minecraft, which my young kids are addicted to.
Oh yeah.
So, is there a lot of big money preparing the world for this new market?
Yes, and I think you're good to touch on the media, because like through movies and that kind of stuff, it really paints a picture of what people imagine all this stuff to look like. I know that Facebook and a lot of these other tech companies are putting a lot of money into this development, and a lot of legal firms are also getting really well organized in their portfolio of companies that they're helping out. And so just kind of from those two perspectives, I think people are very motivated. It's just, I think a lot of people are apprehensive to this space, and they want to wait till it's completed, or they want to wait till it's done. But in my opinion, the opportunity is here now. And by the time everyone else kind of knows about it, there's not going to be the opportunity as there once was, as far as the upside that people are kind of looking for. And so I found this whole cryptovoxel space, these virtual worlds, as a medium to essentially build out a business and kind of create that platform, because there's people in here and you can interact with other people globally. So.
Next question.
I hope that answered it. Yep.
Yeah. I'm sure there's more to it with movies always forecasting the future and preparing people for what's next. How did you get that art looking so realistic? I mean, going into an art gallery, you get to really feel the art, the whole essence of it. I get why an artist would use you to advertise his or her art. That was a nice building you put the art in online.
Mm-hmm.
It's a nice feel to it. How did you get the art to look so realistic, or can you not get it realistic enough? Because I'm sure artists can be picky.
Yeah, I haven't had a problem with artists not thinking that it wasn't a good representation of the work. Though I know that everyone is particular, so maybe we'll come across that. The building itself, we can just go back to that real quickly. So this building right here, each one of these tiles right here, this little cube, I laid down like hand by hand. So for example, I'm not going to do it there because I segregated my build rights. So just right here, I can click and lay down blocks. And so just kind of like Minecraft, you can kind of lay down blocks and that kind of stuff. And you can create, a little thing there. So you can also lay down images and
what do you do if a Minecraft zombie comes? Can you kill it?
Oh, there's no Minecraft zombies. No, nothing like that. Here, let me show you something that you can do though, which is kind of cool. What do you think?
Don't take my essence into your world.
Yeah, there you go. Let's see. Let's leave it up to leave it. Let's leave it in the store for a while and see how much money we can get bid on that picture of Charles.
There you go. Yeah, no, you'd have to create an asset of it. It's a little bit different than just a picture, but NFTs are really interesting because an NFT equals a lot of different things besides just a picture, right? An NFT equals this container that contains the property rights to this parcel, but it also, contains the property rights for an image. So this particular piece of art right here is actually, we run back over to it. This piece of art. And so this individual, as part of this piece, they have a acrylic art piece that they created. And so it's deliverable. And so by purchasing this digital contract, just like you would a paper contract for a fine piece of art. So I purchased this digital contract, therefore it gives me rights to the physical piece of art that is associated with this. And so if I want to make that deliverable, I can.
If somebody were to go ahead and buy it, so you deliver it, then what do? Just put sold across it, or do you take it down and replace it with some other artwork? How do you kind of rotate the stock, as it were?
Yeah, so, one of our guys negotiated a 90-day deal. And so this space here is going to be available for 90 days. And so she has more artwork than just what's available on the walls here. And so, yeah, like you said, we'll just rotate it. But we're going to try and do one of these about once a month. So we'll have I think a lot of properties getting a little bit more use out of them, so which is nice.
And with this,
I've been waiting for the market to appreciate. Honestly, it's taken some time. I thought it was about 4 years out. So I wasn't anticipating this upside that we had recently in the metaverse. So.
What were you going to say, Charles? I had another question, but go ahead.
Well, after your question, you want to invite Cindy to unmute. I see she has a question.
Yeah, she had a comment there. So I was going to say, the nature of this technology, is it only for creating, imagery and stuff like this, or what other ways can you apply this technology that you think is going to emerge?
So if I could take you back 1,000 years and I could teach you about the invention of paper and the invention of the printing press. So I don't know if you guys know this, but China invented the printing press and paper back in 970. And then it wasn't until the other printing press in the 1500s came that books and stuff and information began to spread a lot more widely around that time. But paper currency was a phenomenon that was created because of the invention of the printing press. And so from 970 for the next about 150 to 300 years, the East basically had paper currencies that they basically used, which is really cool. So, so to take that history back now forward, the NFTs are essentially that same type of phenomenon. They are essentially paper, and they are a way of mass producing these types of containers, so digital containers for holding rights for assets. And so we can essentially identify and contain the rights for this individual asset and this asset and this asset and this asset. We can make these plants into assets. We can make the digital contract, which is the agreement between the tenant, the property manager, and the builder who maintains the property. We can make that into an NFT, and we can make it so that contains the payments that are coming into the agreement. And it allows full transparency when it comes to contracts. And that's something that we've been missing in this traditional world for a long time. And it's something that NFTs solve.
Actually, I was going to follow up on Charles' prompting there, because I see Cindy had an interesting question about NFTs, and also she kind of drew in John McAfee. Cindy, you want to mute for a second and kind of elaborate on that?
Hi, can you hear me?
I can.
Yes.
Hi, everyone. So I'm not too familiar with this virtual animation, but I was reading up on John McAfee and the possibility of him purchasing this container, I guess, as you're describing, of NFT. So if you can elaborate a little bit more on that and why someone may want to purchase these NFTs. I guess if you had a ton of funds to spend, why would you want to put them into NFTs?
Well,
and
NFT,
also, sorry to interrupt, Jeff, and thank you, Cindy, for the allusion to the great John McAfee, who was suicided, right, Jeff? Go ahead.
I would say so, just like Christmas tree ornaments, they don't hang themselves.
Go ahead, Jonathan.
Yep.
You can
So
fill it in for her.
yeah, geez. So yeah, an NFT basically is nothing more than just an agreement. It's simply just a container for an agreement. So if you wanted to create a contract between yourself and, say, you had a tenant, right? You can essentially create that as an NFT, and you can basically say this. Yeah, an NFT is similar to a smart contract, but a smart contract basically is a tiny logical piece, and so it's like a logical construct. And so it just basically says that this thing happens if something else happens or something like that. It's just a logical construct, whereas an NFT is a container for all of those logical constructs. So just like a logical construct is essentially a property, like this particular property, which has various unique characteristics. Like we can go here and I'm on this property, so I can click right here to dynamic throughway. I can pull up this parcel page, and that's going to pop up this screen here. It's going to show it had 1,600 visits and all that kind of stuff. And so this is an NFT because it contains this individual property. Excuse me. Oh, maybe the one next to it. And whereas like an image itself is also an NFT, but it contains the rights to that particular image. But you could also have an NFT as a savings instrument. So say you wanted to have like a savings bond or something like that, where you had a continuous rate of savings, or every 2 weeks you wanted to save a particular amount of money. And so you could essentially create that savings instrument as an NFT. But you could do it in a way where you issue the savings instrument to yourself. So there's a lot of really interesting things you could do here with how you're deploying these agreements.
Jeff, real quick.
So you don't have.
Yep. Go ahead, Jonathan, finish.
Yeah, I was going to say the unique thing you can do with different deployment mechanisms is if you can architect the agreements in a manner that's simple, you can make it so people deploy agreements to themselves. And so you actually don't have to go through a third party when it comes to issuing these types of agreements in these types of contracts also.
Jeff, what I was going to interject here was staying on John McAfee and his involvement with NFTs. In his final interview before he was suicided, he said, we're all in the matrix. And of course, he's famous for security software. Jonathan, do you know much about John McAfee, and was he influential at all in this world that you're an entrepreneur in?
No, I didn't have any direct involvement with him. And he, I believe, worked in a different space altogether. But going off kind of what you were saying there, as far as like we're all living in the matrix, there's a lot of different perspectives to look at the world. And our contract model basically sets the way of life. Paper contracts govern our society, and that's what your social security card is, it's what your birth certificate is. If you actually get down to the nitty gritty of what a stock certificate is, if you actually own the stock certificate, like the piece of paper that is the stock register or whatever, then, that's the actual asset, right? So, and the property title and the car title, same thing. I don't have to explain this. And so the construct of paper contracts moving to digital presents a fundamental shift in how we organize society. And that is very, very difficult to comprehend. So I think that's the biggest issue that we deal with in this space. And so living in the matrix, sure.
Jeff, you want to invite Alex or Mark to ask their question?
Yeah, I was going to say, we're getting some chats in there. Anybody feel like they'd like to kind of put it out there a little bit more aggressively? Go ahead and unmute yourself. Yeah, go ahead, Barad. I see you got there.
Great presentation. I just had a question. So where do you start? If you want to buy a property, which is the site you should go to register your property, and how do you start the whole concept?
Absolutely. So really what you want to start out with is having an identity on the blockchain. So you have to create an Ethereum wallet. So I use the Brave browser because the Brave browser has an internal Ethereum wallet. See if I can. So it's this thing right here, this image, this icon. And so you just download that, you create an Ethereum wallet, and that Ethereum wallet becomes your identity. So in order to make transactions, you're going to have some Ethereum, because that's how that securitization like thing works. Like you spend Ethereum on the Ethereum network. So it's typical within different blockchains. And so you just want to fund your account to put money in there. And then the website that you're going to want to go to is OpenSea.io, which is this top one here. So this is one of the most popular websites. If you do a quick research on this website, you'll see that they just raised $100 million. So they're one of the leading contenders in this space. So you go here, and then you go crypto voxels or other virtual worlds. So, but I like crypto voxels.
So once I found all this,
you
then how do I find you? Then how do I find out where you are now that I've already set those few things up you just set us up with, which is good. We didn't really talk about that part of it, but yeah, how do I then find you?
Yeah, that top place right there. So I picked up this domain, which makes it really easy for you to find my where I'm at. And so bittrees.xyz will always redirect to this portal hub. And so I'm typically in and around here, working, because I work from this space. I build these various places that you see. So the NFT Expo place, it took me a couple weeks to put together all the different pieces. So and then this space over here, it took about a week to complete, but it's a whole concert hall and everything. And it's they wanted it off the Bootsy Bella and stuff like that. And it has a jungle theme downstairs, and they had a disco ball thing up top here. They had an album release, so it was really cool.
If I were to buy a space in here, then do I go in and create my own look and everything, or does somebody else do that for me, or are there people that would do that for me if I didn't feel confident enough to do it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I kind of filled that gap for a lot of people, and people have hired me to build stuff. So these people, for example, they purchased this parcel here, but they're like, oh, we need something built and we just don't know how to approach it. And they basically were like, we want this and this thing and that thing and all this stuff. And so it was kind of a rushed build, but they commissioned me for it. So I built this whole structure for them for a fee. So
very good. All right, what are the good questions we got? I'm sure there's got to be about a bazillion of them there.
See chats from Mark and Alex. Jeff, want to invite them to ask their question?
Yeah, Mark, how about that? Or Alex, I'm here for you. Unmute. You're good to go.
That's Mark.
There he is.
Yeah, my question was, it's built on an Ethereum platform. Are there ideas in the future there's about 8,000 different cryptos, and there's security coins that are starting to take off. So the government can get in now on Bitcoin and Ethereum and kind of see everything you're doing. So a lot of people want to go where they have their own security. They don't want the government in all their business. Is that Monero is probably the largest right now? Is that something going to be looked at in the
I mean, here's the thing. Working online through global platforms, you need to have some level of transparency. I find it very difficult to work with businesses in the space that are not transparent because I want people to be trustworthy. And I found, that's kind of where the world is right now. The world really lacks a lot of this trust, and a lot of that lack of trust is on the lack of transparency. And so I'm sure if our various institutions that individuals and groups of individuals have issues with were more transparent, I think that there would be a lot less issues. I don't know if it's easy to argue with that.
No, I agree.
And
I
so-
agree with you on the transparency, but
Yep.
the people you don't trust is the government. That's who I trust the least. So
Sure, but like our government's managed by it's ran by people. Like we're governed by people, representational democracy. Anyways, but so right.
that's a whole nother
And
discussion.
so yeah, but we put people in power, and they stayed in power because everyone liked them and they did whatever. So it is what it is. We just have been lazy, and we need to come to terms with the fact that people have been lazy. And anyways, so
Okay. No, I understand.
right,
For this type of technology, probably you wouldn't need that. Go down that route.
You're talking a little bit of more. You're talking, I think, more about like transactional type things, right?
Right.
Where
Right.
you're like, I don't want the government to look at like my transactions. Like if I'm gonna go to Dairy Queen, or if I'm gonna go down to the local like grocery store, I am not trying to have the government know what I'm spending my money on, or anyone for that matter. You're like, I want that privacy to myself, right? So that's kind of in a different realm of what we're doing. Ours is more on this whole metaverse and kind of building businesses and advertisement and fostering business and that kind of stuff, and fostering community. And so kind of that worry is not really in something that we're dealing with.
No, you made that clear. That's
that's
why I asked the question. Good answer.
Yeah, no, it's a good question.
One of the questions that came up is this just like if I have a regular computer, my phone, and this is how I can access this stuff. I don't need any special equipment or.
No, absolutely not. No, it's unlike the Oculus or that whole deal. Like you can I'm on my laptop right now, and you can actually go on your computer, or excuse me, your cell phone, bitrees.xyz, and it'll take you right to there, and you can wander around on your cell phone.
Mm-hmm.
It's really neat. I actually enjoy the platform because of that.
Now your platform is not that old per se. How many people would you say are on this platform, and how many people are on like some of the other ones that have been around for a lot longer?
Not sure. They've all kind of been around the same amount of time. I mean, different types of metaverses come and go, but there's looks like 90 people online right now. So, but it's probably about 90 continuous people, about 100 continuous people. So, and then it fluctuates based off of events that are happening.
And when you say they come and go, why would it go? If you put this up there, why would this suddenly fail? I mean, is this costing you a lot of money to start it up, or anything that you can't even sustain it till it starts to get going a little bit? Or you just never get found out and people don't come and you just flop because it just, it has no popularity?
Are you talking about, like different metaverses?
Yeah, you said they kind of come and go.
I'm speaking more generally, like Second Life and that kind of stuff. Like Second Life was like a long time ago. Yeah.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay, that's just the nature of them.
Jeff, I see a question from Alex on DAOs. Does Alex want to
DAOs?
Explain that question?
Yeah, decentralized autonomous organizations. When I first started learning about smart contracts back in like 2017, a big part of that subject matter is DAOs, or decentralized autonomous organizations. So I just don't really interact with too many people that have that knowledge.
Yeah, no, DAOs are really cool. Basically, it allows groups of individuals or an individual that wants to have third parties kind of manage assets and whatnot. And so, yeah, it's a unique way of kind of like of interacting and whatnot. I think of different DAOs as like a trust agreement. That's pretty much how I see them.
And from my understanding, it's a way to really automate an organization with software.
I think it's at a high level approach. It is that. Though I think NFTs themselves will essentially govern a protocol to themselves, just because they're a corporation or a company is essentially nothing more than a group of contracts that all kind of interact together. If you really want to look at that kind of construct. And so, like, what's an insurance company, right? It's just basically debt and a whole bunch of puts. So like, right, like that's just a whole bunch of contracts and a whole bunch of logic put onto contracts. Maybe you have a couple salespeople in there, but salespeople and the customer service people, as far as insurance agents go, they're, it's more just automated. So I think we're going to see that kind of continue to head in that direction. But I think it will be so more rapidly because of this kind of digital development.
Well, I think it solves the need for what you mentioned about that transparency and
yes, absolutely, 100%. That's why I'm so bullish on the space. I have a really hard time interacting with some of these businesses that are not on the level, and I'd rather just be open, transparent about everything we're doing, everything we have. So especially as far as the assets and the transactions that we have, it's a lot easier to work with people.
Cool, thank you.
So, yep.
What do you think about what's his name, Ulrich, who's in prison for that dark web sales market?
Yeah, he essentially created like an escrow, contract, but it was all contained within a website. That was probably a bad move. This space, you can create escrows using NFTs, and
all right,
and that's
have a good rest of your day.
So you can create escrows as NFTs, and that creates a whole another can of worms. So yeah, I'm hoping that doesn't happen again, because that created a lot of bad press for the space.
I would certainly agree with that part. Well, lo and behold, we're just down to the end here, so I want to see if you might have a little closing commentary there, and then we'll want to thank you for being here.
Yeah, reach out to me if you guys have any questions about this whole space. This is evolving quite rapidly. We have rental space available if you're a finance person, or if you're just looking to build out, an immersive advertising space, or if you're just interested in, better understanding this whole digital space. I have a pretty wide knowledge base as far as like the different developments here.
All right.
So thank you, everyone.
On that note, I was going to zip back, because now you can definitely understand the value of this continuing the conversation feature that we've built into this over time, because that became the big missing link. Was everybody said that speaker was great. How do I help them, or fund them, or donate, and all kinds of different things depending on what that person's about. So this is a prime example why it's important. So on that note, Jonathan, thank you so much for being here today.